How are you guys doing? Today is Saturday, April 17th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances from yesterday, Friday, April 16th, and of course, I'm going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. Looking back to yesterday's games, of course, getting started with the NBA, just to show what the NBA is looking like as the NBA season is ticking towards its last quarter of the season. Starting out with the first primetime matchup of the game in Utah, the Utah Jazz hosted the Indiana Pacers, and they were able to pick up a 119-111 win. They won by 8 after outscoring the Pacers by 8 in the fourth quarter. They would end up outscoring Indiana by 21 points in the entire second half to pick up their 42nd win of the season, the very first team in the NBA to eclipse 42 wins. For the Indiana Pacers in this matchup, their leading scorer was their starting shooting guard, Caris LeVert, who finished with 24 points, 7 rebounds, and a couple of steals in 34 minutes, as he shot 10 for 24 from the field, 3 for 10 from 3, and he made his only three-pointer of the night. Also for the Pacers, their all-star starting power forward, Domantas Sabonis, would finish with 22 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists in 32 minutes, as he shot 7 for 19 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 7 for 7 from the line. For the Utah Jazz, their leading scorer would be their starting small forward, Bojan Bogdanovic, who finished with 24 points. He finished with 24 points in 33 minutes as he shot 9 for 16 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. Also in the starting lineup for the Jazz, their elite starting shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell out of Louisville, would finish with 22 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 5 turnovers in 21 minutes, as he went on to shoot 7 for 15 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. Their elite starting center, Rudy Gobert, would finish with 13 points, 23 rebounds, and 4 blocks in 38 minutes, as he shot 6 for 7 from the field and 1 for 4 from the foul line. And their all-star point guard, Mike Conley, would finish with 10 points and 10 assists in 32 minutes, as Conley shot 3 for 9 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Utah Jazz are now 42-14. They've won 3/4 of their games so far this season. With this win, they've won their last 2 games. They've won 7 of their last 10, and they are now 26-3 at home. Of course, they have the best home record in all of basketball. With right now, looking into the playoff picture, they currently sit a game and a half ahead of the second-place Phoenix Suns, as the Jazz currently hold the best record in the West and the NBA as a whole, for that matter, as they sit only 1.5 games ahead of the Jazz, and they sit 28 full games ahead of the last-place Houston Rockets, to give a sense of how big their lead is in the conference. Looking out to with this loss, the Indiana Pacers are now 26-29. That is the 9th best record in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, they've still won 5 of their last 10 games. They currently trail the 8th place Charlotte Hornets by a game outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, as they currently trail the Philadelphia 76ers by 12.5 games in the Eastern Conference. Looking at the second big game of the night, speaking of the Philadelphia 76ers, the team with the best record out east hosted the Los Angeles Clippers and were able to pick up their 39th win of the season as they beat the Clippers 106-103. The difference will come in the first quarter, as the Sixers outscored the Clippers by 11 points in the first quarter, and as the Clippers gradually came back, they would not take over the Sixers and pick up this win. For the Clippers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting shooting guard, Paul George, who finished with 37 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, a couple of steals, and 7 turnovers in 39 minutes, as he shot 14 for 29 from the field, 4 for 12 from 3, and 5 for 7 from the foul line. For the Philadelphia 76ers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting center, Joel Embiid, who finished with 36 points and 14 rebounds in 36 minutes, as he shot 10 for 20 from the field and 16 for 18 from the foul line. Their elite starting point guard, Ben Simmons, also in the starting lineup, he would go to finish with 12 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in 36 minutes, as the LSU product shot 5 for 9 from the field and 2 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 39-17. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference, and that is the 3rd best record in the NBA. The Sixers have now won their last 4 games and 7 of their last 10, as they are currently 22-5 at home. That is the second best record at home. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit 1 game ahead of the second place Brooklyn Nets. They sit 11.5 games ahead of the 8th place Charlotte Hornets in the playoff picture, and they currently lead the 15th place Detroit Pistons by 22 games in the entire conference. With this loss, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 39 with this loss, the Los Angeles Clippers are 39-19. That is the third best record in the Western Conference. With this loss, they've still won 7 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they trailed the second place Phoenix Suns by 2.5 games, and they currently sit 2 games ahead of the fourth place Denver Nuggets as they trail the Utah Jazz by 4 total games in the Western Conference. And then following that, the game that was on prime time was in Dallas as the Dallas Mavericks hosted the New York Knicks. In this matchup, the Knicks would beat the Mavericks 117-109 following their first quarter where they outscored Dallas by 9 points and virtually carried that momentum through the end of the game. For the Dallas Mavericks in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting center, the former New York Knicks All-Star, Kristaps Porzingis. He was their last All-Star before Julius Randle. In this matchup, Kristaps Porzingis would finish with 23 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 38 minutes as he shot 8 for 20 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. And their elite starting point guard, Luka Doncic, would finish with 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 19 assists in 38 minutes as he shot 7 for 16 from the field, 2 for 9 from 3, and 6 for 10 from the line. For the New York Knicks in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their all-star power forward, Julius Randle, who finished with 44 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists in 41 minutes as he shot 16 for 29 from the field, 6 for 11 from 3, and 6 for 9 from the foul line. Alongside him in the starting lineup, their starting shooting guard out of Duke, R.J. Barrett, would finish with 24 points and 8 rebounds in 46 minutes as he shot 9 for 18 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and 3 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the New York Knicks are now 30-27. That is the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference. They are the 6th team in the Eastern Conference to pass the 30-win threshold. They've now won their last 5 games and 6 of their last 10. I saw something saying this is their first 5-game winning streak since Carmelo Anthony's been on the team. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they currently trail the 5th place Boston Celtics and the 4th place Atlanta Hawks by half a game, and they currently sit a game and a half ahead of the 7th place defending Eastern Conference champions Miami Heat. Overall, the New York Knicks trailed the Philadelphia 76ers by 9.5 games in the division. With this loss, the Dallas Mavericks are now 30-25. That is the 7th best record in the Western Conference. With this loss, they've still won 6 of their last 10 games. They currently trail the 6th place Portland Trailblazers by 2 games in the Western Conference playoff picture, and they sit a game and a half ahead of the Memphis Grizzlies as they currently trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 11.5 games in the Western Conference at the moment. And right now, and just to show, like I said, they trail by 11.5 games in the conference, just to show what the Mavericks are. Jumping outside the primetime performances from last night, taking a look at what went down in Detroit, the Detroit Pistons hosted the Oklahoma City Thunder and were able to pull off a 110-104 win after the big difference would be in the second and third quarters where they outscored the Thunder by 7 points in each quarter. For the Thunder in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting small forward, Luguentz Dort. Luguentz Dort would finish with 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists in 32 minutes as he went on to shoot 9 for 20 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and he went on to shoot 5 for 8 from the foul line. And then for the Detroit Pistons, their leading scorer would end up being their starting shooting guard out of Kansas, Josh Jackson, who finished with 29 points and 7 rebounds, as well as 2 steals in 27 minutes, as he shot 9 for 16 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 9 for 10 from the foul line. With this win, the Detroit Pistons are now 17-39. That is the worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they have won 4 of their last 10 games with this win. They currently sit 10.5 games behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets outside of the playoff picture in the East, and they currently trail the 1st place Philadelphia 76ers by 22 total games in the conference. With this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now sitting at 20-36. That is the 3rd worst record in the NBA. And with this loss, they now tie the Sacramento Kings for the longest losing streak in the NBA, as they both have lost their last 9 games. The Oklahoma City Thunder sit 9 games behind behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the playoff picture, and they currently trail the first place Utah Jazz by 22 total points in the conference. Jumping out to Washington, D.C., the Wizards hosted the New Orleans Pelicans, and in a game that went all the way down to overtime, the Washington Wizards would end up winning this game 117 to 115, as, of course, great shots were taken down the stretch from the Wizards to pick up their 22nd win of the season. For the Pelicans in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting small forward out of Duke, Brandon Ingram, who finished with 34 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals in 42 minutes, as he shot 12 for 27 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. Alongside him in the starting lineup, the Pelicans' elite starting power forward, Zion Williamson out of Duke, would finish with 21 points and 6 rebounds, as well as 7 turnovers and 6 fouls in 31 minutes, as the Duke product would shoot 9 for 18 from the field and 3 for 6 from the foul line despite fouling out. For the Washington Wizards in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting point guard, Russell Westbrook, who finished with 36 points, 15 rebounds, and 9 assists in 44 minutes, as he shot 13 for 24 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and 7 for 11 from the line. Alongside him, their elite starting shooting guard, Bradley Beal, would finish with 30 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists in 42 minutes, as Beal shot 10 for 29 from the field and 10 for 11 from the foul line. With this win, the Washington Wizards are now 22-33. That they are tied with the Chicago Bulls for the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 3 games, despite the fact that they're so low in the conference. They've won 5 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 5 games behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the Philadelphia 76ers by 16.5 games in the conference. With this loss, the New Orleans Pelicans are now 25-31. That is the 5th worst record in the Western Conference. They've now lost their last 2 games. They've lost 6 of their last 10. They currently sit 4 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, and they currently sit 17 whole games behind the Utah Jazz in the conference. Jumping out to Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Nets hosted the Charlotte Hornets and were able to pull up a 130-115 win. They would go into halftime completely tied up, as the Nets did outscore the Hornets by 15 in the second half to pick up their 38th win of the season. For the Charlotte Hornets in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting small forward, Miles Bridges, who finished with 33 points, 9 rebounds, and a couple of steals in 39 minutes, as he shot 13 for 18 from the field, 6 for 10 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the line. Their starting shooting guard, Scary Terry Rozier, would finish with 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 10 assists in 40 minutes, as he shot 12 for 21 from the field and 1 for 2 from the foul line. And also in the starting lineup, scoring a career high, would be their rookie starting center out of Duke, Vernon Carey Jr., who finished with 21 points and 6 rebounds in 35 minutes, as he shot 9 for 14 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. For the Brooklyn Nets in this matchup, their leading scorer would end up being their starting small forward, Joe Harris, who finished with 26 points and 3 steals in 29 minutes, as he shot 8 for 12 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. Their goated starting power forward, Kevin Durant, would finish with 25 points, 3 rebounds, and 11 assists in 30 minutes, as Durant would finish 8 for 12 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the line. Their elite starting point guard, Kyrie Irving, would finish with 12 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals, as well as 5 turnovers in 33 minutes, as Kyrie shot 5 for 11 from the field and 2 for 7 from 3. Off the bench, their shooting guard, Landry Shamet, would finish with 20 points in 21 minutes, as he shot 7 for 14 from the field and 6 for 11 from 3. And also off the bench, their elite power forward, Blake Griffin, would finish with 10 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals in 21 minutes, as he shot 3 for 5 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Brooklyn Nets are now 38-18. That is the second best record in the Eastern Conference. With this win, they've now won 7 of their last 10 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they still sit a game behind the first place Philadelphia 76ers after the Sixers were actually able to beat them either yesterday or a couple days ago. And also the Nets sit 2.5 games ahead of the third place Milwaukee Bucks, just to show where they sit in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. With this loss, the Charlotte Hornets are now 27-28. That is the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now lost their last 4 games and 6 of their last 10. Sitting within the playoff picture, they sit half a game behind the 7th place reigning Eastern Conference champions, Miami Heat, and they sit a game ahead of the 9th place Indiana Pacers, who were just on the outside looking in, as they trail the first place Philadelphia 76ers by 11.5 games in the Eastern Conference, just to show where they are. Jumping out to Florida, the Toronto Raptors hosted their newest in-state rivals, the Orlando Magic, and were able to pull off a 113-102 win after they went on to outscore Orlando by 19 points in the third quarter. That would be the difference in this game. For the Magic, their leading scorer would be their starting center out of Duke, Wendell Carter Jr., who finished with 20 points and 9 rebounds in 32 minutes, as he shot 8 for 12 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. For the Toronto Raptors in this matchup, their leading scorer would end up being their starting shooting guard, Paul Watson, out of Fresno State. He would pick up a career high with the Raptors. He would finish with 30 points in 26 minutes, as he shot 10 for 13 from the field, 8 for 11 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Off the bench, their small forward, Yuta Watanabe, would finish with 21 points for himself, along with 6 rebounds, as he went on to shoot 7 for 11 from the field in 27 minutes. He shot 2 for 4 from 3 and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. With this win, the Toronto Raptors are now 23-34. That is the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now won their last 2 games and 5 of their last 10. They currently sit 5 games behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the first place Philadelphia 76ers by 16.5 games in the Eastern Conference, alongside the Chicago Bulls and the Washington Wizards. With this loss, the Orlando Magic are now 18-38. That is the second worst record in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, they've lost 7 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 9.5 games behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, and they sit 21 full games behind the Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference. Jumping out to Chicago, the Chicago Bulls hosted the Memphis Grizzlies, as the Grizzlies were able to beat the Bulls 126-115 after coming into halftime completely tied up. The Grizzlies would outscore the Bulls by 11 in the second half, by 9 in the third quarter. For the Chicago Bulls in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting point guard out of UNC, Kobe White, who would finish with 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists in 33 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 7 for 7 from the line. Alongside him in the starting lineup, their all-star center, Nikola Vucevic, would finish with 24 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists in 33 minutes, as he shot 9 for 22 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. For the Memphis Grizzlies, their leading scorer would be their starting small forward, Dillon Brooks, who finished with 32 points in 29 minutes, as he shot 12 for 19 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and 4 for 5 from the foul line. And their lead starting point guard, Ja Morant, would finish with 15 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists in 32 minutes, as he shot 5 for 11 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Memphis Grizzlies are now 28-26. That is currently the 8th best record in the Western Conference. With this win, they've won 6 of their last 10 games. In the playoff picture, they currently sit a game and a half behind the 7th place Dallas Mavericks, and they currently sit a game ahead of the 9th place Golden State Warriors, who are on the outside looking in, as they trail the first place Utah Jazz by 13 total games in the conference. With this loss, the Chicago Bulls are now 22-33. They are tied with the Washington Wizards for the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, they've lost their last 5 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. And they currently sit 5 games outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture behind the 8th place Charlotte Hornets. And they currently trail the first place Philadelphia 76ers by 16.5 games in the conference, alongside the Toronto Raptors and the Washington Wizards at the moment. Jumping out to Houston, the Houston Rockets hosted the Denver Nuggets, and the Nuggets were able to pull away with a 128-99 win. They would end up outscoring Houston by 20 points in the first half and then by 8 in the fourth quarter. They outscored the Rockets in every single quarter of this game to pick up their 36th win of the season. For the Rockets in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting power forward, Kelly Olynyk out of Gonzaga, who would finish with 23 points. It's in 6 rebounds in 27 minutes as he shot 10 for 14 from the field and 3 for 4 from 3. Their starting small forward, Jayshawn Tate, would finish with 21 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 32 minutes as he shot 9 for 13 from the field and 2 for 3 from the foul line. And their elite starting point guard, John Wall out of Kentucky, would finish with 10 points and 2 assists, as well as 7 turnovers in 28 minutes as he shot 3 for 8 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. For the Denver Nuggets in this matchup, their leading scorer was their elite starting center, Nikola Jokic, who finished with 29 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals in 27 minutes. As he shot 10 for 12 from the field, he made his only three-pointer of the day, so he was 1 for 1, and he went 8 for 9 from the foul line. Alongside him, their starting small forward, Michael Porter Jr., would finish with 21 points and 5 rebounds in 31 minutes, as he shot 7 for 13 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Denver Nuggets are now 36-30. That is the 4th best record in the Western Conference, as they have now won their last 2 games in 8 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they now sit 2 games behind the 3rd place Los Angeles Clippers, and they sit 2 games ahead of the 5th place defending NBA champs Los Angeles Lakers, as they currently trail the Utah Jazz by 6 total games in the Western Conference at the moment. With this loss, the Houston Rockets are now 14-42. For the first time this season, the Houston Rockets are now the holders of the worst record in the NBA, as they have now lost their last 5 games. They've now lost 9 of their last 10. They currently sit 15 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 28 total games in the conference. Just to show where they are following this loss. Jumping out to Minneapolis, the Minnesota Timberwolves are no longer the worst team in the NBA. They no longer have the worst record in the NBA after they were able to beat the Miami Heat 119-111 after outscoring them by 11 points in the fourth quarter, coming in trailing by 3. For the Heat in this matchup, their leading scorer will be their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, who finished with 30 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, and 3 steals in 39 minutes, as he shot 9 for 19 from the field and 12 for 15 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Trevor Ariza, would finish with 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 37 minutes, as he shot 8 for 14 from the field and 5 for 7 from 3. And their elite starting center, Bam Adebayo, would end up finishing with 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in 39 minutes, as he shot 7 for 8 from the field and 3 for 5 from the foul line. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, their leading scorer would be their elite starting center, Karl Anthony Towns out of Kentucky, who finished with 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, as well as 6 personal fouls, as he shot 8 for 14 from the field, a perfect 4 for 4 from 3, and 4 for 7 from the foul line, as he fouled out in 26 minutes. With this win, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now 15-42. That is the 2nd worst record in the Western Conference. With this win, they've won 4 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 14.5 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, and they currently trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 27.5 games in the Western Conference. With this loss, the Miami Heat are now 28-28. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. They have now lost their last 3 games, but they've still won 6 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit a game and a half behind the 6th place New York Knicks, and they sit half a game ahead of the 8th place Charlotte Hornets, as they sit 11 games behind the Philadelphia 76ers out east. And then last but not least, jumping out to San Antonio in the NBA, the San Antonio Spurs hosted the Portland Trailblazers, and in this one, the Trailblazers would end up beating the Spurs 107-106 as they outscored the Spurs by 3 in the third quarter to pick up their 32nd win of the season. For the Spurs in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting small forward, DeMar DeRozan, who finished with 26 points, 4 rebounds, and 10 assists in 37 minutes, as he shot 11 for 25 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. For the Portland Trailblazers, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard, CJ McCollum, out of Mercer, who finished with 29 points and 6 assists in 38 minutes, as he shot 13 for 26 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the foul line. And alongside him in the starting lineup, their starting small forward, Norman Powell, out of UCLA, would end up with 22 points himself. He would do this in 38 minutes as he shot 8 for 17 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. With this win, the Portland Trailblazers are now 32-23. That is the 6th best record in the Western Conference. With this win, they've now won 5 of their last 10. In the playoff picture, they now sit a game and a half behind the 5th place defending champs Los Angeles Lakers, and they sit 2 games ahead of the 7th place Dallas Mavericks as they trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 9.5 games in the conference. With this loss, the San Antonio Spurs are now 26-28. That is the 10th best record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost their last 2 games in 7 of their last 10. They now sit 2 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, as they currently trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 15 total games in the Western Conference, just to show where the San Antonio Spurs are. Those were all the games yesterday for Friday night. As we lead into Saturday, just taking a look at what's going on today, starting with the primetime matchups. At 4:30, the defending champs Los Angeles Lakers will host the Utah Jazz. The Lakers playing without their best 2 players, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. The Utah Jazz currently holding on to the best record in the NBA. That game will be on ESPN as it'll be played in Staples Center. Following that on ABC, the Boston Celtics, who are currently holding on to the 5th, or they're tied with the Atlanta Hawks for the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference, are going to host the Golden State Warriors, who are fighting for a playoff spot in the Western Conference, as the Warriors currently hold the 9th best record in the Western Conference. That game will take place on ABC as Steph Curry faces off against Jason Tatum. And then outside of the primetime games, at 8 o'clock, the Washington Wizards will host the Detroit Pistons. The Chicago Bulls will host the Cleveland Cavaliers at the same time. At 9 o'clock, the Milwaukee Bucks, the 3rd best team in the East, will host the Memphis Grizzlies, who are currently holding on to the 8th best record in the West. And then at 10 o'clock, the Phoenix Suns, the holders of the 2nd best record in the NBA, look to host the San Antonio Spurs. And that's what the NBA is looking like as of today, Saturday, April 7th. Jumping to see what's going on with the NHL, of course, keeping everything within the arena, but switching the context to the ice. And of course, you got to know that every team has to stay within their own division when traveling. Not many games yesterday. Starting north of the border, the Montreal Canadiens were able to beat the Calgary Flames 2-1 and pick up their 19th win of the season. With this win, the Montreal Canadiens now hold the 4th best record in the North Division, as they trailed the Maple Leafs by 13 total points in the table with 3 less games played. Jumping out east, the Boston Bruins hosted the New York Islanders and were able to hold them completely scoreless, winning 3-0 to pick up their 24th win of the season, led by their goalie Swayman. With their 24th win of the season, the Boston Bruins are now hold the 4th best record in the East Division, as they trail the Washington Capitals by 6 total points in the table with 2 less games played. Mathematically, they are able to catch them. Jumping out west, the Minnesota Wild were able to beat the San Jose Sharks at home, picking up 2 of their 3 goals in the second period to pick up their 26th win of the season. With this win, the Minnesota Wild are now the 3rd best team in the West Division, as they trailed the Colorado Avalanche by 9 points total in the table. And then jumping out to Anaheim, the Ducks hosted the Las Vegas Golden Knights, as the Golden Knights were able to beat the Ducks 4-0 with 3 of their goals coming in the second period. With this win, the Las Vegas Golden Knights now hold the 2nd best record in the West Division. With a 5-game winning streak, they still sit 2 points below the Colorado Avalanche. But that's what NHL was looking like yesterday. Looking forward to today's matchup, starting with the primetime games at 12:30. The New York Rangers will host the New Jersey Devils on ESPN+. At 3 o'clock, the Buffalo Sabres, the holders of the worst record in the East, are going to host the Pittsburgh Penguins, led by their future Hall of Fame center, Sidney Crosby. At 7 o'clock, the Tampa Bay Lightning will host the Florida Panthers on ESPN+. Those are 2 of the top teams in the Central Division as of right now. And then outside of the primetime games, at 12:30, the Philadelphia Flyers are going to host the Washington Capitals. At 4 o'clock, the Montreal Canadiens are going to host the Ottawa Senators. At 6 o'clock, the Arizona Coyotes are going to host the St. Louis Blues. At 7 o'clock, the Carolina Hurricanes are going to host the Nashville Predators. And the Detroit Red Wings are going to host the Chicago Blackhawks. And at the same time, the Winnipeg Jets will host the Edmonton Oilers. At 8 o'clock, the Minnesota Wild are going to host the San Jose Sharks. And at the same time, the Dallas Stars are going to host the Columbus Blue Jackets. As of right now, that is what the NHL is looking like going into today, Saturday, April 17th. Taking a look at what's going on with baseball as baseball is entering its third weekend of the season. Starting with the first game of the day in Chicago, the Chicago Cubs hosted the Atlanta Braves, and the Atlanta Braves were able to pull off a 5-2 win after scoring 3 runs in the fourth inning. For Chicago, the start will go to Zach Davies, and in this matchup, he would allow 4 earned runs in the 4 innings that he pitched as he struck out a batter and allowed 7 hits. With this win, Zach Davies is now 1-2 as a starting pitcher. In their lineup, their starting catcher, Wilson Contreras, will go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run as he hit his 3rd home run of the season. Their elite third baseman, Chris Bryant, will go 0 for 4 as he went on to walk once and he struck out twice. Their elite shortstop, Javier Baez, will go 0 for 2 as he struck out once and he also finished with a run on the day. For the Atlanta Braves, the start will go to Kyle Wright, who allowed 2 earned runs in 4.1 innings pitched as he struck out 5. The win would go to their relief pitcher, Mike Tomlin, who allowed no runs and allowed 3 hits in 1.1 innings pitched. With this win, Josh Tomlin is now 2-0 as a relief pitcher. And with this save, Will Smith now has 3 on the season as he struck out 3 batters. He struck out all 3 batters of the inning. He still walked 3 batters, but the Braves were still able to make it out of it. In their batting lineup, their elite right fielder, Ronald Acuna Jr., will go 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run. Their elite first baseman, reigning National League MVP, Freddie Freeman, will go 1 for 3 with a run as he also walked twice. Their elite left fielder, Marcell Ozuna, will go 3 for 5 with an RBI. Their elite second baseman, Ozzie Albies, will go 1 for 4 with a run for himself. And with this win, the Atlanta Braves are now 6-8. Looking out in the National League East, that is the 4th best record as they currently trail the New York Mets by 2 games. With this loss, the Chicago Cubs are now 5-8 as they hold the worst record in the NL Central. They currently trail the Cincinnati Reds by 3 games in the conference. Jumping out to Washington, D.C., the Washington Nationals hosted the Arizona Diamondbacks. And in a game that was completely scoreless until the bottom of the 9th inning, it would be a Kyle Schwarber home run, his first of the season, that gave the Nationals their 4th win of the season. For Arizona, the start will go to Taylor Widener, who allowed no earned runs and 4 hits in his 6 innings pitched as he struck out 3 batters on the day. The loss actually will go to their closer, Alex Young, who allowed 1 earned run in 1.1 innings pitched. No one for the Diamondbacks was able to register more than 1 hit as they were held to 3 hits on the day by the Washington Nationals' goated starting pitcher Max Scherzer, who would actually get no decision in this game, although he allowed no earned runs and only 2 hits in 7 innings pitched as he struck out 10 batters. This was a great starting pitch-up duel between Scherzer and Widener, but the win would go to Washington Nationals closer Brad Hand, who struck out 1 batter in the 1 inning that he pitched. With this win, Brad Hand is now 1-0 as the Washington Nationals closer. Their elite right fielder, Juan Soto, will go 0 for 3 with a walk. Their left fielder, Kyle Schwarber, will go 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run as he had his first home run of the season. The only player for the Nationals to log more than 1 hit was their second baseman, Josh Harrison. He was the only player of the day to do that. With this win, the Washington Nationals are now 4-7. That is the worst record in the National League East as they trail the New York Mets by 2.5 games. With this loss, the Arizona Diamondbacks are 5-9. That is the 4th best record in the NL West as they currently trail the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers by 7 total games in the NL West. Jumping out to Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Phillies hosted the St. Louis Cardinals, and after scoring 6 runs in the second, they were able to pull off a 9-2 win to pick up their 7th of the season. For St. Louis, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Carlos Martinez, who allowed 6 earned runs in 5 innings pitches. He struck out 5. With this loss, Carlos Martinez is now 0-3 as a starting pitcher. Their right fielder, Tommy Edman, would end up going 2 for 4 on the day. Their elite first baseman, Paul Goldschmidt, would go 1 for 4 as he struck out twice. Their elite third baseman, Nolan Arenado, would go 0 for 4 as he struck out once for himself as well. The only player that logged RBIs for St. Louis was their left fielder, Justin Williams, who finished 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs in a run, as he had his second home run in the 8th inning. It was a 2-run home run, obviously. And for Philadelphia, the first win of the season will go to Zach Eflin, as he allowed 2 runs in 7 innings pitched, as he struck out 6. With this win, he is now 1-0 as the Philadelphia Phillies starting pitcher. Their left fielder, former National League MVP Andrew McCutchen, will go 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs and a run. Their elite right fielder, Bryce Harper, will go 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run for himself, as he also walked. Their catcher, JT Realmuto, will go 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run, as he had his second home run of the season. And their second baseman, Gene Segura, will go 3 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs. With this win, the Philadelphia Phillies are now 7-6. That is the second best record in the NL East, as they currently trail the Mets by half a game. And with this loss, the St. Louis Cardinals are now 6-7. That is the third best record in the National League Central, as they trail the Reds by 2 games in the division. Jumping out to Yankee Stadium, the New York Yankees hosted the reigning American League champs, the Tampa Bay Rays. After the Rays scored all 8 of their runs in the first 6 innings, the Yankees could only score 2 in the 7th, and the Rays would pull away with their 6th win of the season. For the New York Yankees, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Nick Nelson, who allowed 2 earned runs in his first inning pitches. He struck out 2 batters. With this loss, he is now 0-2 as a starting pitcher. Their elite first baseman, DJ LeMahieu, would go 0 for 4 as he struck out once. Their elite right fielder, Aaron Judge, would go 0 for 4 as he struck out twice. Their elite shortstop, Gleyber Torres, would go 1 for 3 as he walked once and finished with a run. Their elite designated hitter, Giancarlo Stanton, would hit his second home run of the season, as he went 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run. His 2-run home run were the only 2 runs that were scored for the Yankees in the 7th inning. And for Tampa Bay, the win will go to their starting pitcher, Michael Wacha, who allowed no earned runs and only 1 hit in 6 innings pitched, as he struck out 9 batters on the day. With this win, Michael Wacha is now 1-1 as a starting pitcher. For their elite right fielder, Randy Arozarena, would finish 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run for himself, as he also walked. Their designated hitter, Brandon Lau, would go 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs himself. Their first baseman, Yandy Diaz, would end up going 2 for 5. Their third baseman, Joey Wendell, would also go 3 for 5 with 2 runs himself. With this win, the Tampa Bay Rays are now 6-8. That is, they are tied with the Orioles for the third best record in the East, as they trail the Boston Red Sox by 3.5 games in the division. And with this loss, the New York Yankees are 5-8, as they currently hold the worst record in the AL East, as they currently trail the Boston Red Sox by 4 games, as they have lost 6 of their last 10, just to show where they are. Jumping out to Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Reds hosted the Cleveland Indians and were able to pull up a 10-3 win after scoring 7 runs in the 3rd inning to pick up their 8th win of the season. For Cleveland in this matchup, the loss will go to their starting pitcher, Logan Allen, who allowed 4 earned runs and 5 total runs in 2 innings pitched, as he struck out 2 batters. With this loss, Logan Allen is now 1-2 as a starting pitcher. Within their lineup, their elite third baseman, Jose Ramirez, would go 1 for 3 with an RBI, as he also walked himself. Their center fielder, Ahmed Rosario, would hit his first home run of the season, as he went 1 for 3 with an RBI and a run. And then their right fielder, Josh Naylor, would end up going 3 for 4 for himself, as Luplow hit his 3rd home run of the season as a pinch hitter. For Cincinnati, the win will go to their starting pitcher, Jeff Hoffman, who would allow 1 earned run and 7 hits in 6 innings pitched, as he struck out 4 batters. With this win, Hoffman is now 2-1 as a starting pitcher. Their right fielder, Nick Castellanos, would end up going 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs, as he hit his 5th home run of the season. Their elite shortstop, Eugenio Suarez, would go 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs himself. Their future Hall of Fame first baseman, Joey Votto, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run himself, as he finished with his 3rd home run of the game. With this win, the Cincinnati Reds are now 8-5. That is the best record in the National League Central, as they sit a game ahead of the second place Milwaukee Brewers by a game. With this loss, the Cleveland Indians are now 7-6. That is the second best record in the AL Central, as they currently trail the Kansas City Royals by a game. Jumping out to Miami, the Miami Marlins hosted the San Francisco Giants and were able to pull off a 4-1 win after they were completely tied going into the 8th inning. It would be a 3-run home run from Starling Marte to give the Marlins their 6th win of the season. For the San Francisco Giants, the start and the no decision would end up going to Anthony DeSclafani, who would allow 1 earned run in 4 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters. He allowed only 4 hits as he struck out 4 batters in the 6 innings that he pitched. The loss would go to their relief pitcher, Matt Weisler, who gave up 1 earned run in the 1.1 innings that he's pitched. And then looking out to he gave up one of the runs that came home on the home run. For San Francisco, their right fielder, Mike Yastrzemski, would go 2 for 4 with a run. He was the only player on the day who logged more than 1 hit for them. And for the Miami Marlins, the start would end up going to Daniel Castano, as he pitched 5 innings, allowing 1 run, and he struck out no batters. He would get the no decision, as the win would go to their relief pitcher, Anthony Bass, who would allow no runs in the 1 inning that he pitched. And with this win, Bass is now 1-2 as a relief pitcher, and the save ended up going to Yimi Garcia. This is now his 3rd save of the season. In the lineup for the Marlins, their center fielder, Starling Marte, was the main guy. He finished 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run, as he went on to hit his 2nd home run of the season. And their second baseman, Jazz Chisholm Jr., would go 2 for 3 with an RBI and a run, as he had a solo home run in the 5th inning, his 3rd of the season. With this win, the Miami Marlins are now 6-7. That is the 3rd best record in the NL East, as they currently trail the New York Mets by a game and a half. With this loss, the San Francisco Giants are now 8-5. That is the 2nd best record in the NL West, as they currently sit 3.5 games behind the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers, alongside the San Diego Padres at the moment. Jumping out to Dallas, the Texas Rangers hosted the Baltimore Orioles, and the Orioles were able to score 5. They were able to score all 5 of their runs before the Rangers scored both of theirs, so the Orioles could pick up their 6th win of the season. For the Texas Rangers in this matchup, the start and the loss would go to Mike Foltynewicz, who allowed 5 earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters. With this loss, Mike Foltynewicz is 0-3 as a starting pitcher for the Texas Rangers. The only player for Texas that was able to log more than 1 hit for the day would be Nick Solak, their second baseman, who went 2 for 3 with an RBI and a run. He hit his 3rd home run of the season for Texas. And for Baltimore, the win and the start would go to Jorge Lopez, who allowed 2 earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 8 batters on the day. With this win, he is now 1-2 as a starting pitcher, and the save would end up going to Cesar Valdez, his 3rd of the season, as he only allowed 1 hit in the inning that he pitched. Within their lineup, their center fielder, Cedric Mullins, would go 2 for 4 with a run himself. And then their left fielder, DJ Stewart, would go 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run himself. He had his 1st home run of the game. And then their shortstop, Freddie Galvis, would end up going 2 for 3 with 2 runs on the day for himself. With this win, the Baltimore Orioles are now 6-8. They are tied with the Tampa Bay Rays for the 3rd best record in the American League East, as they currently trail the Boston Red Sox by 3.5 games. And with this loss, the Texas Rangers are now 6-8. That is the worst record in the American League West, as they trail the Seattle Mariners by 3 total games in the division. Jumping out to Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Brewers hosted the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Pirates were able to beat the Brewers 6-1 behind Brubaker picking up his 2nd win of the season. For Milwaukee, the start and the win would end up going to their starting pitcher, Adrian Hauser, who would end up allowing 3 earned runs in 4.1 innings pitched as he struck out 3 batters on the day. For the Brewers, no one on the team was able to log more than 1 hit for the team, actually, as a whole. And then but the only RBI would come from their pinch hitting left fielder, Tyrone Taylor, who would go 1 for 2 with an RBI. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, the win would go to their starting pitcher, JT Brubaker, who allowed 1 earned run and 4 hits in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 8 batters. With this win, Matt Brubaker is now 2-0 on the season, as a starting pitcher. Their second baseman, Adam Frazier, would go 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a run. He was the only player on the team that actually logged more than one hit for the Pirates on the day. With this win, the Pirates are now 6-8. That is the fourth best record in the NL Central, as they currently trail the Cincinnati Reds by 2.5 games in the division. With this loss, the Milwaukee Brewers are now 7-6, as they currently trail the Reds by a game in the Central. They sit second, or as they sit second overall. Jumping out to Anaheim, the Los Angeles Angels hosted the Minnesota Twins and were able to pull up a 10-3 win after the Brewers actually took a 3-2 lead in the sixth. The Angels would take the lead right back off of a Mike Trout 2 RBI single to go 4-3, and then it would end up being a 6th-run 7th inning for the Angels to run away with their 8th win of the season. The start and the loss for the start would end up going to Lewis Thorpe, who got the no decision for Minnesota, who he allowed 2 earned runs in 4 innings pitches. He struck out 2. The loss would go to the relief pitcher Randy Dobnak, who allowed 5 earned runs in 2.1 innings pitches. He struck out 4. With this loss, Dobnak is now 0-3 for the season for the Twins. Their catcher, Mitch Garver, would end up going 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run on the day. Their third baseman, Josh Donaldson, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI himself. And Max Kepler, their right fielder, would end up going 2 for 3 with a run, as their elite designated hitter, Nelson Cruz, would go 1 for 4 himself. For the Los Angeles Angels, the start went to Andrew Heaney, as he allowed 2 earned runs in 5.1 innings pitches. He struck out 6 batters. He got the no decision. The win would go to their relief pitcher Aaron Slagers, who actually blew the save, but he still got the win nonetheless. With this win, he's now 1-0 as a relief pitcher. He allowed 1 earned run in the .2 innings that he pitched. And within the Angels lineup, their second baseman David Fletcher will go 2 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs. Their goated center fielder Mike Trout would end up going 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs, as he walked twice. Their left fielder Justin Upton would end up going 2 for 4 with 4 RBIs and 2 runs, as he had his second home run of the season yesterday. And then their right fielder Jared Walsh will go 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs and a run, as Walsh hit his 4th home run of the season. And then their shortstop Jose Iglesias would go 2 for 4 with a run for himself. With this win, the Los Angeles Angels are 8-5. That is the second best record in the American League West, as they currently trail those Seattle Mariners by half a game. And with this loss, the Minnesota Twins are now 6-8, as they have lost 7 of their last 10 games. That is, they are tied with the Detroit Tigers for the worst record in the American League Central, as they currently trail the Kansas City Royals by 2.5 games in the division. Jumping out to Oakland, the Oakland Athletics hosted the Detroit Tigers. Speaking of the Tigers, in this matchup, the A's were able to beat them 3-0, holding the Tigers to only 4 hits total as a team. For the Detroit Tigers, the start and the loss would go to Jose Urena, who would allow 2 earned runs in 7 innings pitched, as he struck out 8 on the day. With this loss, Jose Urena is now 0-3 as a starting pitcher for Detroit. No one for Detroit would log more than 1 hit on the day, as of course Ramos, Grossman, Castros, and Reyes would finish with the hits on the team. For Oakland, the player that will be responsible for that, and of course the start, would end up going to Frankie Montas, who would allow only 2 hits in 6 innings pitched, as he struck out 7 batters. In between his bullpen of Pettit, Diekman, and Trevino, of which got the save, his second of the season. They only allowed 2 hits between the 3 of them, and struck out a combined 4 batters in the last 3 innings of the game. In the lineup for Oakland, their second baseman Jed Lowry would go 2 for 4. Their first baseman Matt Olson would go 2 for 4 as he struck out. Their elite third baseman Matt Chapman would go 1 for 4 with an RBI and 2 strikeouts, as he hit his 3rd home run of the season yesterday. And then their designated hitter Mitch Moreland would go 2 for 4 with an RBI himself. With this win, the Oakland Athletics are now 7-7. That is the 3rd best record in the AL West, as they trail the Seattle Mariners by 2 games in the division. And with this loss, the Detroit Tigers are 6-8, as they are tied now with the Minnesota Twins at 6-8 for the worst record in the AL Central, just to show where they are. Jumping out to San Diego, the Padres would host the defending champions Los Angeles Dodgers. And in a game that went all the way down to the 12th inning, it would end up being a Corey Seager 2-run home run that started the Los Angeles Dodgers' 5-run 12th inning to give them their 12th win of the season. For the San Diego Padres, the start would go to Ryan Weathers, who wouldn't even make it through the first 4 innings of the game. He allowed no earned runs and only 1 hit, as this game mostly turned out to be a bullpen matchup. The loss loss for the Padres would go to their relief pitcher, Tim Hill, who allowed 3 earned runs and 5 total runs in 1.1 innings pitched. Within the lineup for San Diego, their elite shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr., would go 1 for 6 with an RBI and a run, as he would hit his second home run of the season yesterday, the only home run for San Diego. Their elite third baseman, Manny Machado, the former Los Angeles Dodger, would go 2 for 4 as he walked twice, and he scored with 3 runs on the day. Their first baseman, Eric Hosmer, would go 2 for 6 with an RBI. Their right fielder, Will Myers, would go 2 for 6 with a run himself. And for the Los Angeles Dodgers, the start will go to their elite starting pitcher, Walker Buehler, who allowed 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitches. He struck out 4. He did not pick up the win, obviously, as they won in the 12th inning. The win would end up going to David Price, their newest, I won't say their newest pitcher, but their newest big contract player, who would allow no earned run, not even a single hit in the 2 innings that he pitched, as he struck out 4 batters on the day. With this win, David Price is now 1-0 with the Los Angeles Dodgers this season. Their elite right fielder, Mookie Betts, would end up going 1 for 6 with 2 runs on the day. Their elite shortstop, Corey Seager, will go 1 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a run, as Corey Seager hit his second home run of the season in the 12th inning. Their third baseman, Justin Turner, will go 3 for 6 with an RBI and 2 runs. Their second baseman, Zach McKinstry, will go 3 for 6 with 2 RBIs on the day. And then their left fielder, Luke Raley, will go 2 for 6 with 2 RBIs and a run, as he had his first home run of the season yesterday for himself. With this win, the defending champs, Los Angeles Dodgers, are 12-2. They are the only team in the major leagues with a double-digit amount of wins. They hold the best record in the NL West, as they sit 3.5 games ahead of the San Francisco Giants and the San Diego Padres. With this loss, the Padres are now 9-6. That is the third best record in the NL West, as they currently hold 1 more win and 1 more loss than the San Diego Padres. So the Padres have a better win percentage, but the Giants have a better win percentage. But still, with this loss, the Padres sit 3.5 games behind the defending champions, Los Angeles Dodgers, in the division. And last but not least, jumping out to Seattle, the Seattle Mariners, the AL West leaders, were able to beat the Astros 6-5 in the bottom of the 9th off of a Ty France single to give them their 9th win of the season. For Houston in this matchup, the start would end up going to Jose Urquidy. He would get the no decision in this matchup, as he allowed 2 earned runs in 5.2 innings pitched, as he struck out 7 batters. The loss would come in relief to Ryan Stanek. Ryan Stanek would allow 1 earned run in the 0.2 innings that he pitched. With this loss, he is now 0-1 as a relief pitcher. And then for Houston in the lineup, the only player that would actually log more than 1 hit would be their second player, Alex Degadi, who would finish 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs on the day. For Seattle, the start and the no decision will go to Yusei Kikuchi, who would allow 5 earned runs in 7 innings pitched, as he struck out 3 batters. The win would end up going to their closer for the day, Anthony Mizowitz. And with this win, he would allow no earned runs and no hits in the inning that he pitched with his second strikeout. With this win, Mizowitz is now 2-0 as a relief pitcher for the Seattle Mariners. In this matchup, or in their lineup, their designated hitter, Mitch Haniger, would end up going 3 for 4 with an RBI and a run for himself. Their second baseman, Ty France, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run. And then their first baseman, Evan White, would finish 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run, as he had his first home run of the season in the 8th inning. With this win, the Seattle Mariners are now 9-5. That is the best record in the American League West, as they sit half a game ahead of the second place Los Angeles Angels. And with this loss, the Houston Astros now hold the 4th best record in the AL West, as they currently trail the Seattle Mariners by 2.5 games. But those were all of the games yesterday to look forward. Those were all of the games yesterday as they led into today. Looking out to what's going on today as we enter this Saturday of baseball, starting with the early games, because of course it is a weekend. At 1:05, the Washington Nationals will host the Arizona Diamondbacks on ESPN Plus, as Luke Weaver faces off against Eric Fetty. And then following that, that's going to be the only game that's going to be on primetime. They're at 1 o'clock. The New York Yankees are going to host the Tampa Bay Rays, the reigning American League champs, as Tyler Glass now looks to get his second win of the season. There will be 2 doubleheaders today. The first one will be between the Kansas City Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays, now Tampa Bay, as Mike Minor faces off against Steven Matz at 2:10. And the second game of this matchup will be between Irvin Santana and Tommy Malone at 6:10. Looking at the other doubleheader, at 5:10, the Colorado Rockies will host the New York Mets as Jacob deGrom looks to get his first win of the season. And then following that, the pitching matchup will be between Joey Lucchesi and German Marquez at 8:10. Outside of the doubleheaders, at 4:05, the Boston Red Sox are going to host the Chicago White Sox as Nick Pivetta hosts the Still C's. Jumping out to Chicago for an earlier game, Trevor Williams and the Cubs are going to host the Atlanta Braves led by Huascar Ynoa at 2:20. Jumping down to at 6:10, the Miami Marlins led by Sandy Alcantara will host the San Francisco Giants led by Aaron Sanchez. At 7:05, the Texas Rangers will host the Baltimore Orioles. At 7:10, the Milwaukee Brewers are going to host the Pittsburgh Pirates. At 8:40, the San Diego Padres led by their elite starting pitcher Yu Darvish are going to host the National League West leading Los Angeles Dodgers, led by their goated starting pitcher Clayton Kershaw at 8:40. At 9:07, the Los Angeles Angels are going to host the Minnesota Twins. And last but not least, at 9:10, the Seattle Mariners, the current leaders of the American League West, are going to host the Houston Astros, led by their new starting pitcher Chris Flexen. But right now, that is what baseball is looking like today, or leading into today, Saturday, April 17th. And then last but not least, taking you just to see what's going on, especially in the world of soccer, following yesterday's matchups. Of course, leading into today, there weren't that many big matchups, but of course, as we ease into this weekend schedule, it's really easy just taking a look at what went down yesterday. Starting off in the MLS, Houston Dynamo was able to beat San Jose 2-0, and Seattle was able to beat Minnesota United 4-0 as they each picked up their first wins of the season. Looking out to what's going on in Europe, leaving the continent, in the English Premier League, Everton tied with Tottenham 2-2. Both of Tottenham's goals would come from their elite English striker Harry Kane in the 27th minute and in the 68th. With this draw, Tottenham now sits 7th in the Premier League as they sit 2 points below sixth place Liverpool, right outside of Europa League contention, and they sit right now they sit 1 point ahead of 8th place Everton now following this draw at the moment. This was a very big draw. Well, Tottenham scored the last goal of the game. This is a game where they definitely should have won, but they were unable to. Looking at what's going on in the Bundesliga, RB Leipzig, the team that's second to Bayern Munich, actually drew a game in which a win would actually have done a lot of good for them. With one more game played than Bayern, they now sit they sit 4 points below them, giving Bayern the opportunity to jump 7 points ahead today. But right now, that's what the Bundesliga is looking like following yesterday's matchup, and also looking out into Ligue 1, Lille, that the team that's currently sitting at the top of the French Ligue 1, they drew their matchup yesterday versus Montpellier, which gives PSG and AS Monaco and Olympique Lyonnais an opportunity to inch a bit closer in the table, considering they didn't win. That's as the French teams were actually able to catch an easy break. That was everything from yesterday. Looking forward to what's going on today. Starting off, it'll be the FA Cup semifinals in England as Chelsea faces off against Manchester City. Of course, the winner of this will advance to the next round, which will be the FA Cup final. Looking into what's going on first in the MLS, Orlando City is going to host Atlanta United. CF Montreal is going to host Toronto FC as the CF Montreal is getting its it's debuting. LAFC is going to host Austin FC as Austin FC makes its debut. DC United is going to host New York City FC. FC Dallas is going to host Colorado Rapids. New York Red Bulls is going to host, that's going to be on. All these games are going to be on ESPN Plus, by the way. That game's at 8 o'clock. The New York Red Bulls are going to host Sporting Kansas City at 8 o'clock. Chicago Fire FC is going to host New England Revolution at 8:30. And Nashville FC is going to host FC Cincinnati at 8:30, just to show what's going on around the MLS. Taking a look at what's going on overseas, jumping out to the Bundesliga, the reigning Bundesliga champs, Bayern Munich are going to face off against Wolfsburg. Like I said earlier, Bayern Munich sit 4 points ahead of second place Leipzig with one less game played, so a win here could create more separation between them and second place, setting them up and putting them in prime position to win the Bundesliga. And looking out into looking out into the Spanish Copa del Rey. It'll be a match between Barcelona and Athletic Bilbao, as the winner, of course, will advance to the final in that. So, of course, that's another tournament to look forward to as we are approaching the end of the soccer season. That's everything. I feel like that's everything to look forward to for today, Saturday, April 17th, 2021. I'm James Sims, and I want to thank everyone for listening 59 minutes of this piece. I hope all is well, and once all of today's exhibitions are done, I will come to you tomorrow, Sunday, April 18th, with a completely new episode. Thanks once again for listening to the whole hour of this piece. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace out.